Okay. All right. And we are live. I've got David Adelson here and Tazi Sue with me. This is Blonde from the Vortex Healing Center. And we're thrilled to have David back again. He's going to talk to us today a lot about the inner alignment for easy success. So I don't even know what that means, David. What does that mean to you, your title?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. You'll love the story. Excuse me. I spent many decades in meditation and in study and physics and consciousness and all this. And then when I finally went to launch my business, I had developed a really good inner guidance system at that point. And what I got told was, just go have fun. Don't worry, just go have fun. So I did. So, but I said, well, shouldn't I do like something about business? And the guidance I got was, you could put, excuse me, a 3-line classified ad in the local shopper's guide, which in the next town over, the town had a population of 10,000. I lived in the town that had a population of 1,600. So you could put an ad in where the 10,000 people are, 3 lines, $5 a week, and then go play. So I did. I just put the ad in and I went out and played, and I had a friend who was into horseback riding, and we went and did that most afternoons, and I went for walks and to the movies and to concerts and to just having a lot of fun. And the only thing that I did was, if the phone rang, I answered it. And at the end of the first year, I had clients in the Netherlands, Scotland, England, Canada, California, Florida, Wyoming, Iowa, Pennsylvania, New York, Maine, I think Vermont, just like all over the place. I had made $90,000. This was like 15 years ago, 17, 18 years ago. I had made $90,000 in that year. Didn't even know it until the person who processed my credit card thing came at the end of the year and said, here's 89,000 has been processed on your credit card plus what you got for checks and everything. I had no idea that was the amount of money I was making. And I never worked, which means I was never on the phone more than 20 hours a week. I took 10 appointments a week that I allowed up to 2 hours for. So I just had a great, so that's alignment. That's people called me. The one ad here. So when we talk about inner alignment, you know, are your clients finding you? There's a line in the Veda. Vedic is the oldest, for those who don't know, oldest records of anything in the world. They're in India, has been the most recent custodians of it, although they're not Indian, they're kind of eternal. And there are all these principles and realities about how the world functions. And one of the things is, and we all know this, what we give our attention to grows in our lives. Whatever we focus on, we see more of. And the line from the Vedas, he who is awake, the Vedas seek him out. Vedas means knowledge. So he who is awake to the knowledge. And then I once heard Maharishi Mahesh Yogi make some reference that it's other things besides the Vedas, if you're awake to them, including money or joy or love or whatever we're awake to, seeks us out. So what we've concluded is that when we're really in alignment within ourselves, just the whole thing about alignment, and I'll talk a little bit about what our perspective of alignment means in a second, but when we're completely in alignment, we're in alignment with everything. And we're part of the flow of creation. We hear, you know, the being in the flow thing. A sports person is in the flow for it. Wow, that was a perfect game. Yes, I was in the flow for the game. But they're not in the flow for weeks or months or years. And when we're in alignment, we are. Everything just can work out when we're in inner alignment. Would you like to know what I mean by inner alignment?
Yes, please.
So most people think alignment means my heart and mind, or maybe my mind and stomach in terms of, or my taste buds. I really want to eat this, but I also want to lose weight or gain weight or whatever our situation is. But we really want something. And when we're in alignment, it's very easy to do that which strengthens what our true purpose is. And when we're out of alignment, which can happen just because we're overtired, or any number of things. When we're out of alignment, it's much more of a struggle. So people who've been trying to, my sister spent 40 years trying to lose weight, and finally realized that there were certain patterns that she had within herself that were conflicting. And when you're in alignment, you don't have conflicting. But when we talk about alignment, we don't talk about just heart and mind. We talk about all the various aspects of your mind, which is the senses, the mind, the intellect, and the ego, all the way through to yourself, your higher self, to the soul or higher self, to the divine, whatever aspect of the divine, because and then all the way to unbounded awareness, to the unified field of all the laws of nature, which is the basis, according to modern physics. It's the basis of everything. According to the ancient scriptures, consciousness is the basis. It's all the same thing. So if you're fully in alignment all the way from the source of everything, then it's the source of everything. So everything else is in alignment. All the trees are always in the right place at the right time. They're never worried about it. They never worry about missing a sale at Macy's or whatever. Okay? So we want to be in alignment where, John Lennon said something about you're never in the wrong place. I don't remember the exact quote, but the idea is that in truth, if we're awake to it and we allow ourselves to be, we can always be at the right place at the right time and if we're awake to it, things work out for us over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what being in alignment from our perspective means.
Okay. What do you think about that definition, Sue?
It certainly makes sense to me, because I've lived my life basically like that. It's how I've ended up in Tasmania and how I've changed careers on 8 different occasions and things. So I've always got to be where I'm supposed to be. And I never knew how I got there, because I was never given any clear guidance or anything. I just happened to be there when it happened. So, yeah, I spent it.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of it. Thank you, Sue, for mentioning that. Is we don't know all the answers. We just turn around and there's the right person. Things just work out. There's a story of Deepak Chopra spent some time with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, founder of TM, the TM technique, who I studied with for a number of years in Europe and in the United States. And Deepak was doing some work with him, and this was, I want to say almost 20 years ago now, 19 something years ago. And he was going from where Maharishi was in Western Europe, I think it was the Netherlands or something. He was going back to India to visit his father and everything. And the story that Deepak said was, before he went, he said to Maharishi, is there anything you want me to do, while I'm in India? Do you want me to pick up some Indian peacock, whatever? I mean, I don't know what he was thinking of, but he said, is there anything you want? And Maharishi said, yes, I want you to talk to the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Education. He named about like 8 or 10 people that were all very specific, including the president. And then Deepak runs and gets on the plane. And it's a long flight to India. And the first thing he did was a long meditation program. And he's in first class, I guess. And there's a person next to him having margaritas. And after however long, Deepak finally opens his eyes, and the guy next to him says, what were you doing? And Deepak said, I was making my own margaritas, meditation and having this. And they started talking. And Deepak started telling him about Ayurveda and about meditation and about all of these very key principles and everything. And a long flight. And as they're finally going to land, the man says, look, he said, I'm here to give an award. And I'm supposed to give a speech, and I have nothing to say, but you have a lot to say. Would you like to come and give the speech instead for me? And Deepak said, who will be there? The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Education, and right down the line. And just like, wow, okay. So what alignment can be like for us is truly miraculous, truly amazing. And I want to switch topics a little bit for a moment. And that is, but I want to mention something. We have a brand new website, and it's a quiz. It's a real simple 2-minute quiz for people to check and see if they're in alignment for their true purpose. And we give a whole bunch of points. It's all free, a whole bunch of points and things that you can do to help further yourself if you're out of alignment. And the website is takethisquiznow.com. So it's real simple, and you can go and do that. And I'll mention it again later. But I want to talk about what's going on in the world right now and why alignment is so crucial. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I'm sure you all noticed it, and I'm sure all your audience noticed it, but there was about a 4-day period where everyone in the world felt as if they were walking on moving sand, where all of their beliefs and everybody was going like, what's going on? And I thought this was real, and I thought that was real. And it's been getting we've been getting a lot more solid ground since then. But it's still a very dramatic shift. We got an email, and I know a lot of people that you know, and a lot of people in the audience have heard the shift from 3D to 5D, and that there was a big thing that happened on August 8th that was supposed to formalize a lot of things, and it's been going on, and all of that's real to the extent that our experience allows it to be real, and it's quite significant. And there is, whatever terms we use to describe it, there is a huge global shift taking place. And we can look at it many, many different ways. And the way that one way is the 3D to 5D. We talk about it in terms of shifting from a Newtonian physical world, which is Newtonian physics, which says a body in motion tends to stay in motion until acted upon by an outside force. It's all about something, cause and effect. In Newtonian physics, something happens and the effect happens. And so that's the way everything works in the world. So we grow up believing that, and when something happens to us and we don't like it, why did this happen to me? Why me? Why did this happen? What caused this? And we go to try to unravel the mystery of what happened. And that's all well and good, except now we're shifting to a world that is based on quantum physics and unified field-based physics. And here's where it gets exciting, because in that realm, things happen for no apparent reason. In unified field physics, you can tickle the absolute over here and it laughs over here. For no reason whatsoever, a photon will appear, move backwards in time, and disappear or split, or all of the whole thing with the Feynman diagrams. Things start happening for no reason. And for our experiences of what's happening in the world, things may just evaporate in our life and we have no idea why. Suddenly our business changes, we lose our job, our relationship with whoever changes, somebody new comes in, just things are popping like popcorn. And it's to a greater or lesser extent, but everybody is going through a reevaluation. And on the deepest levels, what they're reevaluating is what's true and real. I've always believed X, but now my experience seems to be coming at odds with that. And it's because of this change that's taking place, and it's a real change. If you grew up on a train, if you were born on a moving train and you grew up on a train or a boat, your whole belief is the ground is always shaky, there's this rattling noise, a cha-chukka, 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 or if you're in the boat, there's the motion that's always there. And then if you get off and you get on solid land, suddenly the very basis, and this is the point of it all, Barbara and Sue, the very basis of everything that you believe now starts coming into question. I thought whenever I got up, things were moving by, and it may be just the water's moving by, or it may be trees or cars or whatever. And now I get up in the morning in my bed and it's the same view out the window. Day after day. Am I going nuts? How can that be? It's very, very deep, fundamental belief patterns that we have held for most of us for all of our lives, especially if we're older, it's much more gripping. And we're now going, wait, is this really true? Is this really real? And it's been coming on for a while in terms of it's been a long time I would say about 10 years, where people have really started questioning advertising, where they're really going, okay, I hear what you're saying, but is that what you're really offering? What's the catch? What's the, if I sign up for this, you're going to put me on your email list, and you're starting to be aware of the, behind the scenes thing. So, and now it's coming to be very fundamental. We've believed that the way we stop wars, we blow up countries. Well, yeah, no, that's not what you do. That's not going to solve your problem. The way that we win is we just kill everybody on the other side. That's a good win for us. And yeah, what about karma? What about, it just keeps rolling around. So there's a lot of really profound inner questioning going on for basically everybody on the planet, almost without exception. And
except for,
pardon?
Sorry, except for a lot of politicians. I have seen just, the gap is getting wider and wider. They are still doing stupid things.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else is actually reacting to that.
Exactly.
Getting rid of it.
Exactly. So they're just, they're saying sayonara. They're on their way out. Because they're not making the changes that they need to stay current. And I don't know whether they can or not. And I'm not a particularly political person, because I figure that's so transitory that if we take care of the rest of us, that'll work out. But I understand what you're saying is there are people, believe me, they're all questioning stuff too. They just don't necessarily know what to do. If the way that you've done it before is through advertising, I'll come out and I'll put out this campaign and it'll be this, this, and this. I know I'll say bad things about my opponent. It's the way they do it in the US. I don't know how they do it, where you are. But nowadays, that will have the exact opposite effect. If you say bad things about your opponent, a lot of the people in this country are now, because of this fundamental change, going, wait a minute, what are you hiding? Why aren't you telling me about you? Why are you saying, look over there, instead of saying, look at what I got? You're saying, look over there. And that's it's a very powerful technique. I don't know how much I want to go into politics, but I will say this. The look over there technique has been used by the top level of politicians in this country for over a decade and a half, where when somebody would, at some rally or some political talk or something, somebody would bring up some reasonable question. Instead of answering the question, they would point and say, look over there, what about this? In high school, it's the standard thing. If the kid gets asked, well, how's it work at your high school? They just go, rah, rah, my team. And everybody gets all excited about my team, and they stop, and the discussion ends. But I want to get back to this whole point about everybody else is going through where they're questioning things. And if we're not in alignment, we're on shaky ground, because we're given, just as you have, Sue, been given in your life, and I know Barbara has as well, and I know a lot of your audience, there are times where for no reason they know they need to do something. I need to do this, I need to talk to this person, I need to go to the store now, and then something significant happens. We've all had that experience. And the more we're in alignment, the more that happens effortlessly. And at a time when many of our fundamental taught beliefs are being questioned, the more we're in alignment, the easier it is for us to put it in perspective. So there's a clearing that I recently did to a lot of self-help business leaders. There was a group that I got to get in front of, very top leaders. All takes $1 million. You have to have $1 million a year at least going into the group, and they all work with, tens of millions of people in their email list and in their base and everything. And when I went to go in, it was suggested that we'll skip that part. I went in and I noticed, I spent a couple of days with them, that they're all doing such good things for the world, but all of them without exception, were 1 to 3 degrees out of alignment with their own true purpose.
Yeah.
And 1 degree out of alignment on the way to the moon, you miss the moon by twice the diameter of the moon. It's a very big miss.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We don't want somebody who's doing so much good for so many people to miss something of their own. And we see sometimes we get distracted. You know, we've all gone to the store for a loaf of bread and gotten distracted and come home with 2 big bags of groceries, you know, and forgotten the bread or whatever it is we went for. So we don't want to get distracted from our purpose. So the clearing that we did was, we did a clearing for them, for the whole group. And what we said was, I'm here to remind you, and this, I want to do this for your audience and for both of you as well. I'm here to remind you of who you are and what you're here to do, which you knew when you were young, before you learned what the world expected of you, when you knew superpowers and Santa Claus were real.
I like that. That's awesome.
It's a very, there was a time in your life where you knew those things were real, and then somebody started teaching you all these other things about the way the world worked. And when you're in inner alignment, it's that all over again. It doesn't matter what you're being told, because the interesting thing, Barbara and Sue, is what the world expects of you was created and designed and propagated on you by, 1, people who were exempt from those rules, and 2, people who did not have your interests at heart. So should I give you a minute to?
Well, I'm just thinking because Sue and I are both kind of at a crossroads. Sue's just recently retired and figuring out what direction she wants to go in. And we're looking at saying, I'm looking at saying, do I shift how I do everything, you know, and what role do we create for the Vortex Healing Center? And how do we go forward with that? So we are all, Sue and I, at major shifts at the moment. So.
Yeah, and so here's my suggestion to you. Don't look outside. Only look within for the answer, because that's where you're going to find what you need to know. And as Sue pointed out before, so many times she didn't know what, she knew she needed to do something, she didn't know what it looked like, she didn't know how to get there, she didn't know the mechanics or the steps. But if you don't mind my saying so, you're on screen right now, Barbara, so I'm looking at you. And if I look at your alignment, you're like this. There's just a little glitch there. If you can know that and then intend to smooth it out, a lot of your questions will evaporate like that. Because you do know what you're supposed to be doing, and you do know where you're supposed to be. And then once you have that in alignment, manifesting it in your world is more about getting out of the way than it is about doing. More about going and playing with the friends who ride horses and just answering the phone when it rings.
Yeah.
It's much more about that than you think. And this is going to be true for a lot of people. And when Sue gets on, if she has some questions, I can do it right now. I can see.
So if you hit
she's small up in the corner, so I can't get a good.
Hit gallery view. Click that button, and you'll see her.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I could do that. Okay.
Yep, Sue's here.
Oh yeah, she does have a. So the question before you, Sue, is: do you want to retire and do you want to retire and take it easy and enjoy rewards for the rest of your life, or do you want to jump back into the fray? And you have that.
I want to take it easy at the moment, but I know there's still more in store. There's a lot of stuff developing behind the grandmother scene, and hopefully through the Vortex Center too. And I want to just be available and open to it when it pops up.
For what it's worth, I'm just going to express and do whatever you feel is best, as I always encourage everyone to do. Great line from the Vedic literature after people go and they go to the great sage or whatever and ask the question, and then the sage tells them all whatever it is for many pages or whatever, and parables or whatever. And then at the end they say, okay, now that you know, do what you think is best, and just freeing off their, and then they often go to somebody else and ask that person too. I'm going to just suggest you lean into doing less and enjoy that. And I think you'll find that some of the quote unquote action steps are very small and very significant at this point, that you become available, and you'll be able to do in an hour what used to take 3, and just allow it to unfold that way, that you'll just realize, oh, that was all I needed to say. I'm done with this call. I'll talk to you later. Or just listen and think, yeah, there we go. Okay, little shift there.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. So, yeah. So the whole thing about being in alignment is if we're in it. So I wanted to say this about learning what the world expected of you, and why at this point, when we're all feeling on shifting sand or that things are shifting, we want to let go of those as beliefs. And here's a perfect example of why. Right now in the United States, Congress, which is the big body that makes all the laws for everybody for the entire nation, made up of 530 some odd people between the Senate and the House. And these people make all the laws, including the laws about women's rights and abortion and the minimum wage and all of these things, okay? So these people make these laws that affect the other 300 plus million people in the country. And the laws that they make are, they take money away from Medicaid and insurance and everything to do with health. They're taking the money away from that. They're taking the money away from education. They're taking rights away from women. They're doing all of this stuff, which is exactly the opposite of what most people want, which is the point that you brought up about not being kind of currently aware. They're doing all of these things, but they have the best health plan in the world that they have. So the rules that they're making are, we won't pay for your hip replacement, but I can have anything I want as far as health, and so can my family. They have a retirement plan that is outrageous of how much money they make every year for the rest of their life. They give themselves raises all the time that they won't allow for the general public. They only work half of a year, and of that, only so many hours a day, and they get to tax write-off and all their traveling for propagating whatever term you want to use when they're trying to get people to vote for them. They get to take all of that time off. So their lifestyle and their economics earnings based on what they're purporting for everybody else is completely unrelated. So these are people who are not well-wishers of the people, who are making decisions that they are exempt from, and then telling us that you don't deserve to earn more than whatever it is, X dollars an hour right now. Now, and they're not new. This has been going on. When you look at the lords of the castles or the church, when the church was the wealthiest organization on the planet, and we're talking a couple hundred years ago, whatever that was, what was their sales pitch? You'll get your rewards in heaven. I'm sitting on a crown of gold and wearing the most expensive jewels in the world with the biggest private library ever that I'm never even going to let you in. But you have to give us your last penny and you'll get your rewards later. Okay. Or the Lord of the castle says, hey, I'll protect you, but you got to give me all of this stuff.
Given all of that, David, how do you help people create that inner alignment?
Perfect. One of the first things is exactly what we're doing now. We're reminding you, thank you for asking this. We're reminding you that pay attention, notice what is real inside, not what's being said to you. We've all learned to shut off ads when we go to the mall or when we're even watching TV. We've all mentally learned how to, I'm not listening. It's not even as much a conscious decision now as a habit. We don't listen to certain things. And what we need to do is stop listening to those things that don't have, the first thing is stop listening to anything that doesn't have your best interest at heart. If it threatens your health, if it threatens your relationship, if it threatens your income, if it threatens your quality of life, or those that you love or those that you care about, what's the source of it? Who's telling you this? What's going on? What's their motivation? Okay? Because a lot of the motivations that you're being taught are being sold right now are not true. They're being propagated by people who don't have the best interest of humanity at heart. So the first thing is to just, how does it feel inside? Does this resonate with who I want to be in this moment? You know, there's a very interesting, when we talk about how creation comes, we like to, there's so many ways to create, you know, God creates, says the word 7 days. There's all these different traditions in the world about how the world comes. And as far as I'm concerned, they all work because the elephant looks different from every different perspective. So it's totally fine. But the way that we like to express it is, I love this one. I was having a conversation at dinner one night with a couple of friends, and Divine Mother just kind of downloaded this to me. She said, the unified field, source of the source of the source of the source of the source, whatever we want to call that, consciousness or whatever it is, here's a rumor within it that it has all possibilities within it. And it says, cool, let me see what that looks like. And then it gets all excited like a little kid jumping up and down. And as it jumps up and down, waves start getting created and out pops creation. And if we take that as the basis, then all unboundedness wants to experience is experience. I have all possibilities within me. What does that look like? It looks like World War II. It looks like heaven on earth. It looks like skyscrapers and airplanes that fly and airplanes that crash. It looks like all this that we personally say, oh, yes, no, good, bad, whatever. But if we understand that from the level of the divine, from the level of unboundedness, we can just create who we want to be and make ourselves happy. And that's just as good as anything, because we're fulfilling our deepest cosmic purpose. Then in any given moment, we get to literally say, who do I want to be in this moment? What do I want to experience? I think it's, can't remember, there was a TED Talk. Somebody, Zanuck, C-A-N-E-K, does that, I can't remember his first name. I think it could be, pardon?
I'm not familiar with
I'm
that
totally,
one, but...
totally blanking on the name, but he said he was watching sports for like 6 months. He was watching all these interviews of people being interviewed before the game and after the game. And the interviewer would always go, are you nervous? And they always said, no, they were excited. And he thought, well, these people are just taking, and then when they would describe the symptoms of being excited, they were the same symptoms that people attribute to nervousness. And he started thinking about this, and then he was on a plane ride that got really hairy, very turbulent. And everybody around was getting very anxious and freaking out and everything. And in the middle of that, he just had the realization that, well, I don't know that he processed it this way, but this is the way that I think of it. He suddenly realized that they pay for this in an amusement park. You know, you pay for this. And he just turned to the person next to him and he said really loud, isn't this exciting? And he said he just watched the energy shift from everybody being terrorized to realize, yeah, this is exciting. So and the reason I bring that up is when we say, who do we want to be and what do we want to experience in any situation? If we're in a situation and we're having a wonderful time, we can continue to have a wonderful time, or we can decide, you know what, I want to be the one who ruins this party. So that's the role I want to play in this moment. That's what I want to experience. I know of a friend of mine had a friend who was an actor who in a very dramatic moment couldn't resist doing the dramatic thing because that's who he wanted. That was the role he wanted to play at that moment. And he even described it that way. I wanted to be the one that standed up and rejected this incredible offer and leave in front of everyone through the crowded room and make everybody wait while I leave. Even though later on he was like, well, that was kind of dumb because now I have to go back and do it all over again. And it was a really long course and all of this. But the point is that we get to decide in the moment, do I want to have fun with this? Do I want to play with this? Can I think of a joke? Can I break the tension? There's so many possibilities that we have in every given moment to express who we want to be. And again, the more in alignment we are, the easier it is in the options of what we want to be. Most of us get up in the morning and we think, what do I have to do today? Very few people get up in the morning and say, what do I want to be today? What would I like to experience today? I'd like to experience laughing 15 times. I'd like to experience making someone else smile who's not having their best day. I'd like to experience the sun on my face. I'd like to experience an hour of no commercials, whatever it is. We don't create by who we are and what we want to be. We create by, again, what we think the world expects of us, which is, I have a job to do. I have to do this. I have these errands to do today. I have to go to the bank. I have to pay this bill. I have to go buy some groceries. I have to do all of these to-do things. And maybe those are fulfilling, but even if they are we noticing that they're fulfilling? Or are we just doing them and checking them off the list? At the end of the day, I had a good day is based on what I got done, not how I felt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to give you, do you have a minute now? We can talk about some of the programs you've done in the past.
Sure.
Some of your, for example, your Silent Peace and Harmony download. I wanted to just share with you 2 stories about that and how powerful that is. That's why I tell everybody to go look you up and go find you, because the work that you're doing, even with your free downloads, is so impactful. I was playing that. I had that downloaded on my phone, and my brother was visiting from Texas with his daughter, who's had just graduated from college, and they were playing that, kind of spoiled child and father having those little nagging little arguments in the car. And I'd go like, oh shit, the thing wasn't looping. I got to turn it back on. So I'd turn it on and it would stop. It would be all calm. And we're driving further. This is long rides here, just doing tourism things here in Tasmania. And then it would start up and I was like, oh darn, it didn't loop. I got to hit the button again, or I got to call, and it stops playing automatically. And every time it was playing, it was total peace and harmony in the car. And every time it stopped, the yapping would start. And so I was just, and the second example is we actually play it round the clock here in town at our little retail shop here at the post office and Crystal Shop. And it's helped enormously to eliminate most conflicts that come in. People are always looking for a parcel that's not there when they expect it. And, and all of a sudden everyone's just all smiley all the time. They're just, it's just been awesome. I'm really adamant about nobody turns that computer off. That stays on and that thing plays 100% of the time. So I really want to thank you for sharing that with the people. And I can't even begin to imagine what else you have in your toolkit of fun things to help people achieve a higher state of being.
We have lots of stuff. And as my son and many others tell me, we know you kind of want to retire, but you can't stop yourself. You're just going to keep creating new things. So a couple of weeks ago, I got the hit that I needed the energy, and this isn't even released yet, so I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I will. We had the thought that I needed the energy of green, of emerald. And I don't know, I assume they're equally expensive there as they are here, so it's not like, oh, I found some pocket change under the couch cushion and I'll go buy an emerald. It's more like, oh my God. And then the information came that you can get the divine energy of emerald And then the whole thing started going. And by the way, you can get the divine energy of pearl, of ruby, of all of these different things. And in India, Jyotish is astrology. And the whole point about it is that they do, based on your birth or when you start your business or whatever, they come up with predicted patterns that are likely to occur. And some of those are obviously good and some of those may not be as good. And they provide remedies, which are often wearing gems or doing what are called yagyas, which are vibrational sound therapies to appease the energies. Basically, you would think of it as a really good lawyer defending you, to whoever needs to be defended. And so we just created this program of, I want to say 35 brand new energies that are all about, that are specifically designed to be low-cost solutions to potential problems that may arise, because an emerald costs X amount of dollars, but you can buy the individual program for emerald for $9, or it's going to be a subscription thing where for $5 a month, you can get on everything. You can get all 35 things and run several simultaneously. And if you sign up for, and then it goes breaks. The longer you sign up for, you get more. And the longest one we ran out is for $199. You can be in it for 20 years, which is like 40 some odd cents a month, and have access to all of this stuff, which is way cheaper than an emerald and a ruby and a pearl. So, and then after that came out, something else came out this week. I don't even remember what it is. So we're constantly coming out with new things. We have a great video right now that's on the homepage of davidadelson.com, which is about a 7-minute video on, and it's a clearing on how to be happy. Just here's 10 points that to integrate. And as you're listening, so we encourage people to listen to it like once a day for a week or something, it clears the blocks that you have that might be preventing you from doing some of the action steps in there. Excuse me, some of the action steps in there.
So Sue, I know you had some questions about how David comes up with all of these programs, including the silent programs. And what was your question?
Well, not really. I was wondering whether you actually just program it with intent, or how do you get that into the silence?
Yeah, the simple answer is it's a gift, and
Don't look it in the mouth.
I don't, but I do understand that. Of course, it's occurred to me that why can't somebody else do this, and the answer is they can't. That I've seen recordings of, how do we want to say this? There are some people, I'm very blessed with some of the gifts that I've got, with a lot of the gifts that I've been given, and I'm eternally grateful for them. It's been very awe-inspiring. But I'm also aware of how many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not, it might be millions, but it's only a few million, amazing people there are on the planet with so many gifts, offering so many ways for, I'm going to use the term righteousness, for life supportingness, for the good of all, for well-wishing. There are so many things, and I know you know a lot of them because of the work that you do, of people who are just well-wishing life, whether it's the planet or and I am a big supporter of all of that. I just, if somebody else has something that works, I refer my clients to other people sometimes because that will resonate better with what they're trying to do. Some people, I'm going to tell you a little thing. I hope it doesn't open too big of a can of worms, but all experiences, so Patanjali, who created the Yoga Sutras, cognized whatever the term is, Yoga Sutras, which is where yoga comes from. Okay, so he analyzes in the process of the Yoga Sutras all of the possible experiences that we can have, whether it's a sense experience of smelling or tasting or memory or sleep or dream. He goes through all the possible experiences, and he concludes that all experiences, that all it is modifications of the mind, that any experience is the modification of the mind. And with that in mind, we realized that one can modify the mind to change the experience. So when we look at that, on that level of understanding that, and the proof of it is this: whatever you're experiencing right now, the wall behind us, what's in front of us, the desk, me, the other person on the call, if it's Barb and Sue and Barbara, or the people in the audience, whatever they're looking at, whatever they're experiencing now disappears when they go to sleep. Non-existent, not there. Okay, and whatever they're experiencing now is not what they experience when they go to sleep. Because when they go to sleep, they could be a fantastic guitar player and be completely clueless what to do when they're awake, you know, bouncing on the moon, whatever happens when we're asleep. And yet someone else looking at them sees their body right there on the bed, but they're not aware of that room. Some modification has taken place in the mind. Well, if all our experiences are based on, the bottom line of it is modifications of the mind, then any change of experience is just basically changing our minds. So how long does it take to change your mind? So we discover fire. Oh boy, warm. I was cold and now I'm nice and warm, and this is great, and I can toast marshmallows and heat food. And then we think fire is great. I love fire. Fire can do no wrong. And then we stick our hand in the fire, and suddenly we have a very different modification about fire. Okay, we can change our mind like that. When we move, if we're living in one place, and Sue's we're all going through transitions right now of whatever type. When we move, we live our mind is, the bed is here, the bathroom is here, the grocery store, I go this way to go to the grocery store. All of these things are in the mind. And when we move, we have to change our thinking. The bathroom's not where it used to be. I can't get up in the middle of the night and walk the same way. I'll walk into a wall, or it'll be the kitchen or another bed or whatever. The grocery store is not the same. Even if we just move next door, it's different. It's completely different. So, and the adjustment that we make is changing our mind. That's the only adjustment that's happening, or something has shifted and we change our mind. We change what we believe and what we expect about it, and we experience it. Now, all healing modalities at their basis, get this, is just an excuse to change your mind. So for some people, they can go up to somebody who just taps them on the forehead and, my God, I'm healed. And for somebody else, they need surgery. And everywhere in between. That whatever, and we know this because there is I don't know in other parts of the world, but there is a whole division of health of doctors in the United States focusing on one particular disease, something to do with the lungs, if I remember correctly, where they don't have an answer. So 60% of the doctors prescribe placebos for the people who have this. And they know placebos work because it's just an excuse. Oh, if I take this, I allow my mind to change. But if we don't believe that this pill will do it, then we need more. So we go to, oh, you need physical therapy. Oh, you need gems. Oh, you need rocks. Oh, you need the silent program. Oh, you need somebody to tap dance naked in front of you for 10 minutes. I mean, I don't know. Whatever people come up with that will allow them, it's just a matter of creating the experience that allows you to shift your mind so that you have health. So if you look at Anita Moorjani, who wrote Dying to Be Me, she dies of cancer. She dies of cancer, and it's years going into this process. And then while she's not in her body, she has these revelations. And she comes back and she heals herself incredibly quickly. No symptoms whatsoever, incredibly quickly. And all that happened is she changed her mind about who she was in her relationship to herself. So when I talk about, if someone comes to me and they can benefit from my silent programs or my non-silent, or the tinctures that we make, or the cards that we make, or any of that are high energy cards, or the magic money pyramids, or whatever it is, when they get that, if they can receive that and let it help them and empower them, and they all have divine energies in them, great. But if there's somebody who says, you know, there's a nail in my shoe, and until I see a pair of pliers pull it out, I won't allow anything to happen, you need to send that person to that modality. So.
Right. So what else do you have for us today, David? What else can we do?
What else would we like to cover? Jokes are always good. I'm a really big believer in humor. I can never come up with one on the spot, though. I'm sorry, I don't do that well. Yeah, I think those are the big things. I think the summary is, if people want to, they can, but nobody needs to feel special about the shifts that they're going through. They're all capable of going through them, or they wouldn't be here now. They would have taken the next train, as it were, or the next plane. So if people are here now, it's because, you know, a lot of people like to watch the sunset. They like to watch the transition or the sunrise. And you have to be awake to watch the sunrise, but you have to also be here. If we want to experience the shift in the world that's coming, and it's so exciting, and so many technologies, so the potential for this world is literally unlimited. And we know so many ways, so many exciting things that are showing up on the planet right now that can solve the problems of pollution, recycling, hunger. There are so many incredibly simple solutions that are just starting to sprout on the planet right now, that the next decade could create a completely different world.
Yeah.
But if
and I think there's a lot of people that I come across who believe they've fulfilled their soul contracts, or they've done many of the things in their life that they believe that they came here to do, and they're still here. And they're like, well, what do I do now? Like, well, you're still here for a reason. You're still here to experience something, because we all know that you could choose to leave at any time. So if you're still here, there is definitely still a reason, or something you are choosing from your highest self to experience.
Yeah, and one of the things is, you know, after the battle, Hercules or whoever wins the battle, they get to enjoy the results of the battle. It's not like, okay, you killed the bad guys, there's nothing else for you to do, we're going to chop your head off now. It doesn't work that way. It's like, oh, you did great, here's some rewards. So there's a couple things that could be going on with those people. The one that they're forgetting is there's still a light. There's still a bright light, and whatever they're doing, even the most mundane things, and whether they're doing them in public or private, whether they choose to have an active role in the world or not, their light is still quite profound. So if we look at Sue right now, who's teetering between what, I understand, I totally get where you are and what you're thinking. And on one level, there's still more that she feels she can do, and there is. But I don't know if she's aware of how incredibly much she's going to do if she just puts her feet up by the river and watches it go by. I don't know if she sees the difference between her deciding to just enjoy and her doing things. It's not that big of a difference. It's not what it was before. It's really just, what do you want to do? What would be fun for you today? Who do you want to be? What do you want to experience? And there will be days that it's like, I could feed the pigeons, or I could go to this meeting, and yeah, I've been to the meetings before, I'll go feed the pigeons. And it's 98% is good. And once the obligations are taken care of, the number one thing for these people is they need to remember that their light and their life is an inspiration to others in many cases. I mean, Sue covers pretty much most of Australia. And I bet she has no idea that that's how far her influence goes. And there are a lot of people that listen to this there are people whose influence goes around the planet. They have no clue that that's how bright their light is. And they don't have to do anything. They could be brushing their teeth or watching an old rerun of a TV show, and the light is still shining. and the light is still having that very profound influence. So on one hand, even though they may feel they've done what they have to, and they have, they need to remember that there's still that. And so on one hand, in terms of service, we still have that aspect. But on the other hand, you're Hercules, you won the battle. What do you want to do? You know, there was a whole series of commercials where they ran out to people who just won the World Series or whatever. And I'm going to go to Disneyland. What do you want to do? You get to enjoy the sunrise. You get to enjoy the unfoldment of so much grace in the world. And if you look for it, you'll be stunned by how much grace is already present in the world and how much is coming day by day by day by day. It's absolutely, it's like, what do they call that when they speed up time-lapse photography? This whole garden is blooming right now. And you can, and I mean in like time-lapse photography. And for those who want to notice that, intend and ask to notice it. I'd like to see the good. I'm awake to see that. Let that seek me out. And they will be stunned at how much beauty there is that they can enjoy in life and how much more progress they can make in their own evolution, in their own unfoldment that they can do, even if they've already done everything, even if they've done absolutely everything. Enjoy it. Just choose to enjoy. Just make that choice that whatever I do, let it warm my heart. Let it be fulfilling. Let even my experience of joy be in service to the divine.
I love that. What do you think about that, Sue?
Yeah, spot on. It's wonderful. It's exactly why I did suddenly decide that I want to get out of this now. I want to retire. I want to sit back and enjoy. And there's so much beauty. We're here where we live. And I've got this gorgeous, great big horse. And I just love him to bits. And I want to work with him. And I want to go out and enjoy the dogs and the days. And yeah, I know that radiates out. And it really does affect a lot of people.
And the horse has some things to teach you.
Patience, yes. So does a chainsaw.
No. It has some. It's not as simple as patience. There's some other things. You need the patience to be able to receive what the horse is there to teach you. Okay. You'll do great. You just allow it. I mean, there's so much good that comes if we just allow it. You know, people stand in line to go to the bank or a movie or to get into a fancy restaurant or something all the time. We allow ourselves to do that. Also allow ourselves to do it for really, for the personal growth things. We just allow it to come. I had a friend who I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had an interesting experience just a couple of weeks ago. I've been doing a few public talks about the book that I've written, which is the history of the vortex here and my travels and stuff. And as I was driving home, I got two very clear messages, like I always do, the same way I receive them all the time, that I was on the wrong path. Go back. And this really bamboozled me for quite a few days. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I mean, everything's just flowed as it should. And I've picked up the opportunities when they arise and blah, blah, blah. And I finally got frazzled and asked a friend of mine, and she said, well, I think we tried doing a bit of a talk or a bit of a reading thing, and no, nothing really came from that other than that. But then I just suddenly thought, it's my brain playing tricks on me. I can't totally feel that I'm doing everything that I should be doing, and I should be doing something else. So I'm looking for something else to do or something else to worry about.
That's not what I'm getting.
It's just dumb.
That's not what I'm getting. I'm getting that it was physically the road that you were on. That there was something else, that there was something that was going to be presented if you made it different, if you went differently on the road, physically on the road, there was something different. This happens to me, not as much these days because I don't drive as much, but there was a time where it happened pretty regularly where it's turn here. And like, whoa, wait, why couldn't you tell me, 20 feet ahead when I had time, let's not have an accident here, people. I'm getting that there was something on the road. The thing to check now is is it fine? Just, is everything good? Is there something that I need to go pick up that got left on the road? Because I think there's some energy there that's still there for you. So wherever it was.
Like a little treasure hunt.
Yeah.
One of the messages came driving, and the other message came meditating that night.
Yeah. I think there's some energy there on the road for you.
Well, it's a long drive back to Hobart. Okay.
Yeah, believe me, been there, done that.
I'm retired. I can do it. I'm retired.
Just, you want me to go, why did you tell me I now have to go all the way back? There are, and sometimes it's just, learning to pay attention and value that very quiet guidance from within. That's, again, true alignment is we have the world shouting at us, what the world expects, shouting at us, do this. Driving down the road, I've got to get to the next place. I get a little impulse, but, I want to make this light. I want to do whatever we do. And, we still do. We have a criteria for, how do you want to say it? If you're in true alignment with who you are and what you will do, and you're walking down the road and somebody on the opposite corner of the intersection yells, come over here and I'll give you $1 million, that unless your alignment is to get $1 million, it's a horrible mistake to cross the street to get $1 million, even though from what the world expects of us, wouldn't $1 million make it a lot easier to do what I'm here to do? Absolutely, it would make it a lot easier. But think about it. If we go to cross the street, can you think of maybe 5 horrible things that could happen that would prevent you from ever finishing what you're doing? We step off the curb, a bus hits us, okay? And then we're dead. Well, that makes it, I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time when I'm dead doing certain things, Playing with the kids,
it would be a lot harder. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. I mean, yes, you can do other things, but if you're trying to do what you're doing, or even if you make it across, or you get partway across and you get hit, but you end up in the hospital for many months, and maybe you get amnesia, or maybe you meet somebody who's, in the room with you for months and they start feeding you not untruths and you just get warped, and then you spend, and if you're lucky, it only takes you 12 years to get back to your path. Or you get over and get the $1 million, and as soon as you get this $1 million, some real hottie of the opposite sex sidles up to you and says, gee, I'd like to be part of the life that includes this $1 million, and they take you off down a side street. There are so many things that can happen if we aren't really clear, and yet learning to listen to that voice for most of us is a leap of faith. Because we have this quiet voice who tells us to do something that in some cases just flies in the face of everything that we know. And it's very quiet, and it's a very silent voice, and there's no one to check it with. Although if you're in a circle of people that resonate truth, you can often check with people, but sometimes it's right there on the spot. I have to do it right now, and who am I going to ask, So, and it's, because of the nature of it, it's in an abstract realm, and we're used to the concrete walls. Bangs the computer or whatever. We're used to the concrete, but one of the precious things about this time is that as this shift is taking place, whether 3D to 5D or Newtonian to quantum physics, whatever we want to call it, as this is taking place, those things that we believe to be true are evaporating, and because those are evaporating, it makes it easier to believe that which comes from within. It's not necessarily louder, but it's less challenging. It's now we start feeling a little more, well, it's not that outrageous for me to stand up and say this, or to go to this store, or where it used to be, oh my God, I would never, ever, 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 ever do that. So this idea of finding our alignment, the more we can get in alignment, the better for ourselves and for others.
because then we're a lamppost, we're a pillar, we're a lighthouse that allows others to find their way. Anyone who works with light, and by light, divine grace, by anyone who works in it, should never, ever, 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 ever underestimate the influence they have on for the benefit of the world, even when they're having a bad, sickened day bad, even when they're having a, oh my God, everything is going wrong today, I'm working off a lot of karma, whatever the term is, even when they're having what they consider, this is a really worst, I'm not going to swear, the worst day experience, even when they're doing that, they are still lighting up houses nearby, blocks away, depending on their influence, and further away. And
well, I think there are a lot of people who needed to hear that, David. I really appreciate you sharing that with us and with our audience.
Yeah, it's really important that people just get that part of your job is simply to be here.
Yeah.
And even, I just would like to point out now that even just talking to you and listening to you now, that message that I was on the wrong path, as soon as I changed my reality or my mindset on that, when you, a minute you said it's on the road, and I thought, well, it's not me personally. If I look out, I think, well, okay, it's what's been bugging me since I got back. It's that I should have had a greater connection with the woman I stayed with, and I've just felt like something's been missing. So now I find the answer, and I've proved your theory for you. I've just done it within the talk. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. You know, we forget to ask, seriously, we forget to ask for what we want. We're so caught up in the doing, and we're so caught up in, I'm going to say it one more time, what the world expects of you. It's really important that we recognize that what the world expects of you has just been shattered. That's what's going on in the world, that it's been completely shattered. You know, I'm going to mention one thing. There are certain principles that we feel that when they happen will indicate basically the shift is virtually almost over. And one of those shifts is when everyone on the planet recognizes that they don't have to work for a living. When everyone recognizes that there's enough here for everybody and I don't have to go out and use my creativity to find a job, I can just paint or play with my kids or whatever it is, and that the stuff will be there because it will be there. We're all very well cared for. And there's so many resources that are untapped and so many technologies even now that can take care of it for us. Buckminster Fuller mentioned, came out in the 70s, but he wrote Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, created the geodesic domes that we still see everywhere. And brilliant, brilliant man. And he said back in the 70s that at that point in time, given the technologies, that only 1 in 10,000 people needed to work for everybody to have the housing and clothing and food and heat and everything that they needed. Well, our technologies have been improving for the last 40 years. And right now, in conversations with God, I think he mentions it's 1 in 100,000 or some really, the number is quite significant of how many people it would take to take care of all of us on the planet. It's a fraction of the world's population. But we're so ingrained that we need to work, again, propagated on us by people who did not have our best interest. But it's been so ingrained for so many generations that if you even mention it, most people think you're nuts. Most people will stop listening to anything you say at that point. But there will come a time where people will realize that the fish don't work, angels don't work, mice don't work, trees don't work, everything else in creation doesn't work, and flowers don't work, then they're all taken care of. And we throw, in the United States, we throw away 1/3 of the crops that are grown because for who knows what reason, and yet we have people that need food. Are you kidding me? What? You know? So it's a very, very exciting time. And it's a special time. When in the Old Testament, Moses gets the Jews out of Egypt. And then the story is that he takes them out of Egypt and he wanders in the desert for 40 years. And there's all these jokes about why he didn't have GPS or why didn't he ask for directions or all of these things. And then in 40 years, they find the promised land. But that's not what happened. What happens is he took them out of Egypt. It took him 2 years, which is not unreasonable given the conditions they were traveling. Took him 2 years to get to right outside of the Promised Land. They were across the river from it. They sent spies into it. Okay, but what he did was he waited till everyone who had experienced slavery was dead before he moved everybody into the Promised Land, so there would be no recollection of that when he moved them. Now,
I've never heard that version of it. It's interesting.
yeah, most people, you can, yes, but they sat out there for 38 years. The 40 years is 2 years to get there, 38 years sitting there just letting people cruise, and die. And what we have in this particular situation is people who blinked last time and wanted to see the sunrise. People who don't want it, people who are awake now, if they put their attention to watching the sunrise, to watching what's good in the world right now, they will be astounded by how much good. First thing is turn off mainstream radio and then just start asking, show me all the good that's happening in the world. And it is staggering what's happening. It is absolutely staggering what's happening and how much good is happening. Way more than most people could notice.
Fantastic, David. Any last tidbits you'd like to share with our audience? I know they can reach you by takethisquiznow.com.
Yeah, and go to watch the happiness video at davidadelson.com, because that's a good one. There may still be a website which is David's Happiness Video. I can't keep track. I have so many different projects that we've thrown up at different times. So it may be at davidshappinessvideo.com too, but it's definitely on David Adelson. Adelson is ADELSON.com.
Do you have any last questions, Sue, for David?
No, I think I'm got plenty to think about and process. Has been fabulous. Thank you.
The last thing I'd like to end with is I just question the source of anything that doesn't resonate with you. I just saw a study, an article that talked about a study that there's some ridiculous percentage of more unhappiness in the world now than there was several years ago. And I have to, why are you studying that? What are you looking at? What's the motivation? Who funded this?
What is that? Yeah.
Well, it's just, no, I have never been more optimistic about the future of the world than I am now. And we all have a right to expect, and not only just a right, but an obligation to expect the best for ourselves and for those that we love, no matter what circumstances appear on the surface. Don't look at the surface. Expect the best underneath. Expect if someone gets sick, that they will get well, or that some good will come from it. Expect that the politicians are going to wake up. Expect that whatever it is, expect that good, expect good, expect good, expect good, because what we're awake to is what we will experience. And in any given moment, who do I want to be? What do I want to experience? Is our deepest and most fundamental and primary choice, responsibility, joy, whatever we want to look at. And we recommend joy. My dad used to say, rich or poor, it's good to be healthy. But he also said it's better to be rich and healthy than poor and sickly. We like those. We think it's smart. It's better to expect the best in every outcome. And I encourage everyone to do that and enjoy the fullness of life that God has graced them with, or goddess, depending on what our thing is. And it's been a great pleasure, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share this information with you and your audience. And we wish so much good for everyone, for your audience, for all those that they love, and truthfully for the whole world. We have a vision of absolutely no one suffering, and it's doable. It's doable. Yeah. So let's allow that to process.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much, David. And I invite everyone to like or comment on this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this, because there were a lot of golden nuggets here in this talk today.
Yeah, it sure is. It was fabulous.
Okay.
Wonderful learning for very many people. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
You're so welcome. Thank you. So great to see you both again. And you're doing great. You're both doing so much good.
Thank you.